Hi, this is Jennifer from Read It Again. Join me while I read the second half of the Cobble Street Cousins Summer Party by Cynthia Rylant. Please consider subscribing, and if you enjoyed this book, hit the like button and share this video with all your friends. Part 2 of the Cobble Street Cousins Summer Party by Cynthia Rylant, illustrated by Wendy Anderson Halperin. Chapter 4, Happy Families. 1 week later, poems had been written and rewritten, songs had been sung and sung again, and cookie cutters had been chosen. That was the easy part. The summer party was nearly at hand. But first, the cousins had to meet their parents at the airport. Aunt Lucy and Michael drove them. "Why am I so jittery?" asked Tess. "Too much caffeine?" asked Rosie with a grin. "It's only my mom," said Tess. "I shouldn't be nervous." "I'm jittery too," said Lily. "It's normal to be nervous," said Aunt Lucy. "It means you're looking forward to seeing them." "I wonder if Mom and Dad are nervous too," asked Rosie. "Do you think so, Lily?" "I don't know," said Lily. "After so many years on stage, you'd think nothing would make them nervous." "Bridges make me nervous," said Michael. "Really?" asked Tess. "Yes. I usually shut my eyes going over them," answered Michael. "Wow," said Tess. "I'm glad you're not driving." Michael looked at Aunt Lucy and smiled. At the airport, they all found the gate where their parents' jet would be landing. "Do I look all right?" Rosie asked Michael. "Like a rose," he said. Rosie grinned. Michael was so nice. Then, finally, Lily and Rosie's parents and Tess's mother were all there. Tess's mother dropped her bags and gave Tess a big squeeze. "Tess, look at you," she said. "How pretty you are. How you've grown. Oh, I adore your hat." Tess grinned from ear to ear. It was the same sweet mom. Rosie and Lily ran back and forth, hugging each parent. Rosie couldn't stop giggling, and Lily giggled because Rosie did. "Look at these giggle girls," said their father. "We missed you so much," said their mother. Aunt Lucy and Michael held hands and watched. Somehow, even with all the excitement and hugs and giggles, everyone made it smoothly back to Aunt Lucy's house. Tess and her mother took a taxi so they could fit all the extra bags in. At home, the cousins sat around the big table in Aunt Lucy's kitchen and talked and laughed with their much larger family for hours. The cousins had forgotten how happy their parents made them, how much fun they could be. Their parents told stories of the things they'd seen all over the world. "I can't wait to travel the world," said Lily. "Me too," said Tess. "I'll pick you up at the airport," Rosie said. Everybody laughed, and Aunt Lucy gave Rosie a hug. I'm not sure I want to give these beautiful girls back," Aunt Lucy said. "You mean we have to take them back?" asked Tess's mom. Everyone laughed again. The wonderful blue house with red geraniums was full of happiness once more. Chapter 5, Friends and Fortunes. The next evening was the summer party. Lily practiced her poem all afternoon while she made little sandwiches. Tess practiced her song while she colored the ice. And Michael and Rosie sat on the front porch writing fortunes and rolling them into little ribboned packages. "Let's make them funny," said Rosie with a giggle. "Okay," said Michael. "And we shouldn't tell each other what we're writing," said Rosie. "If I get one of yours, I want to be surprised." "Likewise," said Michael. "How do you spell ophthalmologist?" Rosie stared at him for a second. Then they both burst into laughter. Rosie felt so happy, so full of hope. Everything would be all right. At the end of the day, Aunt Lucy and Michael strung Japanese lanterns through the trees in Aunt Lucy's courtyard. The cousins set up 5 little tables covered with pretty red cloths and flowered napkins. The tables were strewn with sparkling glitter and confetti, and a pretty candle glowed in the center of each. "Really nice," said Rosie. "Aren't you glad I thought of the sparkles?" asked Tess. "Yes," said Rosie. The cousins then wrote out place cards for each table so the guests would all know where to sit. The place cards were shaped like cats in honor of Elliot, who had not been invited because he wouldn't keep off the glitter. Then Michael put a small festive package bearing a fortune on each plate. "Beautiful," said Lily. At 7 o'clock, the guests all arrived. There were the parents, of course, plus Mr. French and Mrs. White, dear neighbors of the cousins, and Mrs. White's friend, Senator Harrison. Michael's father was out of town, but Michael did manage to borrow Yardley, his father's basset hound. The cousins were delighted to see Yardley again. When everyone was seated, they all had delicious tiny sandwiches in wonderful shapes, even giraffes, and lemon cookies and chocolate fudge, and a very colorful punch that Tess called the cousins' crayon concoction. The guests loved it. After eating, everyone settled down for entertainment. First, Tess sang a beautiful song called Friends Forever, which nearly had Rosie a blubbery mess, but she managed to hold up. Then Lily read her poem, Cousins. On Cobble Street, there once were 3 cousins living happily. One with patchwork, one with lace, one who sang in every place. They baked cookies, they made tea, they sewed very daintily. Cousins in the morning light, cousins there to say good night. In my heart there will always be a big blue house with cousins 3. That did make Rosie cry, and nearly everyone else. The cousins got lots of hugs from everyone. Then Rosie remembered, "Don't forget your fortunes, everybody." Suddenly it was a party again, with all the guests laughing and saying funny things. Tess missed Elliot so much, she had to run up to the attic to give him a kiss. "Don't open the fortunes until I get back, please," she said. She ran quickly and was back in minutes. "Okay," said Aunt Lucy, "let's open our fortunes." There was a great flurry of unwrapping and untangling and silent readings, then much laughter. "Mine says, an ophthalmologist has eyes for you," said Mr. French. He laughed and laughed. "Mine says you will inherit a freezer because you're so cool," said Tessa's mother. "I'm going to be a belly dancer in New Hampshire," said Lily, and Rosie's father. Everyone read their funny fortunes aloud for all to hear. Everyone except Aunt Lucy. She had been very quiet. "What does yours say, Aunt Lucy?" asked Tess. "Yes, what does yours say?" asked Lily. Aunt Lucy was very pale. She looked across the tables at Michael, who had knelt down to pet Yardley. Michael rose up and took a deep breath. Then the cousins watched as he walked over to stand before their Aunt Lucy. "What does yours say, Lucy?" Michael asked softly. Rosie's eyes were wide as saucers. Lily held still. Tess barely breathed. Something was happening. "It says, 'Will you marry me?'" whispered Aunt Lucy. The cousins gasped. "Will you?" asked Michael. "I thought if I asked you here in front of the cousins, you couldn't say no," he smiled shyly. Aunt Lucy smiled back at him and took his hand. "Yes, Michael," she said, "I would love to marry you." Eeeeee! The cousins couldn't help themselves. They had to scream. They were so happy. The girls ran over and jumped up and down and hugged Michael and Aunt Lucy again and again. All the guests applauded and cheered and declared their well wishes. Even Yardley howled. It was a true celebration. Later that night, curled up cozy under several quilts in the playground, the cousins talked of everything that had happened and everything that was going to happen. Aunt Lucy was right, said Tess. Be brave, have hope, make plans for the future. I can't believe there are wedding plans, said Lily. I think an August wedding will be perfect, said Rosie. Everything is in bloom. And we get to come back in 2 months, said Tess. The girls squealed with delight and snuggled closer. Isn't it amazing how we were so sad and now we're so happy? Asked Lily. And green, said Rosie. Green? Repeated Lily and Tess. Rosie held up her fingers. They were all green. I spilt the food coloring when I was cleaning up, she said, and it's not easy being... Don't tell us, cried Tess. The cousins giggled and giggled. There was so much to look forward to.